Welcome to the Movers and Shakers podcast, where real students are doing real deals in the world of multifamily real estate. I'm Vince Gethings, the owner of the Wheelwell Profits Academy. Listen in as we dive into the journeys of driven individuals who are turning their dreams into reality. These people are just like you, taking action and making things happen. If you enjoy the show, please like, subscribe, and if you're ready to take action, check us out at wheelwellprofits.com to learn more about our incredible community. Let's get started.
Hello and welcome. My name is Gino Barbaro, one of the co-founders of Jake and Gino, and I am honored today to have Chris Bizub on Movers and Shakers show. Before becoming a real estate professional in 2014, he spent 10 years as a bartender. Now, Chris owns a real estate wholesaling and fix and flip business. I can't even say fix and flip because sometimes I get a little nervous saying that word, but it's okay. We're going to get through it. He's completing 178 wholesale deals, 26 fix and flips, and his GP in 129 units. Welcome to the show, Mr. Bizub. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing great, Gino. Thanks for having me, man.
Let's get back to the bartending years. 10 years as a bartender. You must have liked it, huh?
Well, pouring drinks, hanging out with ladies, and making decent money wasn't a bad thing for 10 years. I did it. Yeah, 10 years I did it. I lived in 6 different states. I did it at the highest level. Worked at a lot of the big time nightclubs and just a really, really fast and competitive bartender when I did it. So it was hard to get away from it. But as you get older, you realize I can't be an old bartender, old bitter bartender.
So, Chris, honestly, you can be an old bartender because you're a good-looking dude. You got the beard. You're rocking it today. Honestly, what made you get out of it after 10 years? What was the pull? What was the attraction into real estate?
So it's funny. It was kind of a couple of things. So when I turned 30, I was working with some bartenders at the time in Arizona that were, 42, 43, and they were what we called the bitter bartender. They were the older bartender that didn't want to do it anymore, but they couldn't figure out how to get out of it. And so I always would see that and I'd be like, I'm not going to be that guy. I'm not going to be that guy. I got to figure it out. Not too long after that, my mother bought me a book, Dean Graziosi's How to Become a Real Estate Millionaire. I don't know if you ever heard of that book or seen it.
I have. I love that book.
Yeah. So I got that book and I ripped through it and I was like, damn, I could be in real estate. I have a construction background from way when I was younger. So I understood properties and construction. I understood that stuff. And I was like, all right, this is what I need to get into. Slowly, I started digging into it, looking at it. And randomly one day, I was listening to a podcast called Knowledge for Men by Andrew Farabee. And he was interviewing this guy, Russ Whitney. And Russ Whitney's like one of the OG wholesalers, like basically started it. And I was listening to this and I'm like, holy shit, you can do real estate without a license and it's all this like off market. And he was explaining, I'm like, that's what I'm going to do. And so from that point, I went all in and I just started studying and learning and finding things, podcasts, meetups. I just went crazy. And so that was at 33 years old. It took me a little while after 30.
I could just stop the podcast and recap the show here. I've got so much meat to work with. So let me recap this. He's out there. He's bartending. He's having a great time. He looks up and goes, I don't want to be a BB at 42, a bitter bartender. Mom hands me a book from Dean Graziosi. I jump into that thing. I'm like, dude, this is great. Then I listen to a podcast with someone who has Russ Whitney on. And, full disclaimer, I love Russ Whitney as well. I've read a lot of his stuff. And it's amazing what happens when you have a big enough why. You see the future. And this is important, everybody, because Jim Rome mentions this story. You're going on a boat with no paddle and no motor, and you're heading towards Niagara Falls, and you're 50 feet away. Most people would say you're screwed. But the tragic part of that story is you didn't know 5 years sooner. And if someone had told you 5 years sooner, well, Chris got lucky because his mom, of all people, gave him a book and told him that you are going to have that future as a 42-year-old bitter bartender if you don't do something about it. And I think the difference ultimately is Chris saw that and he didn't want to live that life. He saw what that life was like. And then that little inspiration of reading that book and then reading the next book really propelled you into real estate. What qualities did bartending allow you to have that you learned from being a bartender that you brought into the real estate space?
Yeah, I mean, it was mainly people skills. without a doubt. I mean, you're behind the bar, and whether it's busy or slow, especially if it's slow, you're just conversating, you're just chopping it up with people. You're talking about life and all the things. It's crazy what you can talk to people about. And so that helped me. I never wanted to be a traditional style real estate agent. I'm not the suit and tie guy. I didn't want to be out there doing showings and all that stuff. And so when I found wholesaling, I'm like, this is what I want to do. I want to be in the trenches. I want to be talking to people. I don't want to be randomly showing houses. It just didn't appeal to me. And so that helped. So when I would sit down with people at their homes, I was already familiar with just having a conversation and just being able to pull things and really just end up finding pain spots, right? Like that's big in the wholesale space. Like, what's your real pain? Why do you need to do this? Why do you need to sell? And so that was the big thing. It was just I just transitioned right over to it. And yes, there was a learning curve, of course, but once I got it, the conversations became pretty easy to me.
Mm-hmm. Chris, I think you're forgetting to mention one thing about being a bartender and being in hospitality. It's a hard business. You have to work really hard. And for anybody getting into real estate that wants to be successful, that hard work ethic, we call it blue collar work ethic, has to translate over, doesn't it? I mean, these deals don't come to you. The phone being slammed in your face doesn't come to you. The door being slammed in your face, it happens all the time. You get often rejection. Talk about the hard work that you had to endure early on getting into the business as well.
Yeah, I mean, I started off as a busser when I had a bar job early, and then I moved to Florida, and I had to start from the bottom. I mean, I worked at a high-end martini bar at the time, and so I started at the bottom. And I honestly, bussing and bar backing was where I really learned how to, all hands in, right? You never come out of the back room empty-handed. You never go into the back room empty-handed. You're always doing something. There's always something to do. You're cleaning, you're wiping. And I am very big on the blue collar way of growing up. That's how I did originally. And so, yes, the work ethic was especially some of the guys I worked for. I mean, it was they were cracking the whip. But that ultimately got me to be the best bartender I could possibly be. And I just like to work. I like to grind. And when people weren't, unfortunately, I would have to let them know we're working. Like, let's go. We got to make some money. So yes, the work ethic came just by building through the system. I learned everything in the system.
So anyone listening to this right now wants to get into wholesaling. We're going to get into the multifamily, even that fix and flip. That word can't come out of my mouth because all that work of fixing something and then just flipping it, letting it go. Listen, you can fix and flip a few. Just keep a couple, maybe. Let me hopefully change your mindset by the end of this show. But wholesaling is a great way to get into real estate. Low barrier to entry, great way to get some transactions, great way to meet people. If I'm looking to get into wholesaling right now, what are some of the things that I should be doing right now?
Yeah, I mean, wholesaling, I've been doing it 9 years now. And so just about 9 years, you could just literally go on YouTube and type in wholesaling, and you'd be able to find everything you could possibly find on how to do it, the way it works, and also podcasts. That's how I taught myself. There's a guy in my market named Sean Terry, and he's another one of the OGs. And he was like one of the first wholesaling podcasts. And I would religiously listen to that thing and take notes and just do. And then I would go implement. I'd go out at Friday night at like 3 a.m. and put up bandit signs. All my friends are out partying and stuff. And I would take a Friday night off during the month from work, and I would go out and put bandit signs out. But just online, really just search Google. And then there's also really good communities. Like, I'm a part of a community called Sub 2, a gentleman named Pace Morby. I'm sure a lot of people on this group will know him. I was one of the first people to join his group because he's in my market, and I've learned so much stuff from him. I mean, creative deals and just normal wholesaling. I would say definitely be a part of a community, a group with that, and then you could just jump online and you could find so much information. You just got to implement it.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing. Like, when I first did it, I was scared. I didn't want to call people. Cold call, I was terrified. And then I just one day bucked up and just started doing it. And it actually wasn't as bad as I thought. And then just started getting better. So just get online, dig in, and find something or someone you resonate with.
I love what you just said. That's important, everybody. It's education times action equals results. But we are drowning in knowledge. And for some people out there, they can go online and they can actually educate themselves and they can implement it. What's the next step? They can figure out the next step. But even Chris, went to Pace Morby, and Pace Morby spoke at MM5. So we're really, and he's part of Family Mastermind. So I'm part of a group with him as well. It's the education, but it's also the implementation of that education. That's what Jake and Gino's for. We're going to teach you, but we're also going to tell you what's the next step. And then on top of that, he's got an amazing community as well as our community. His community is focused on sub-twos, creative financing. If you're looking for that, it's a great community to get involved because you want to educate yourself. You want to know what you're doing. Then the next step is to implement it. Then the next step is to actually have somebody where you can help you implement it, but not even that. You have a community that's backing you with the resources, and the community gives you the accountability. Because Chris all by himself is going to burn himself out at 3 o'clock on Friday nights putting those bandit signs. But if Chris is working with a group and he's holding himself accountable, it comes a lot easier, doesn't it?
It comes a lot easier. I mean, it's, to like sub two and the Jake and Gino, right? So whenever I had a question or thought, I would automatically think to go Google it. And then I'm like, nah, wait a minute. Let me just go to the group page. Let me just ask the question. And lo and behold, you got 15, 20 people that respond. And then you're having a conversation. I mean, the answers come so quick when you're part of a really, really good community, and one that you resonate with. You have to resonate, but you got to implement. You can't do the analysis paralysis. And I always say, just go ahead, make the calls. It's just practice. I used to get scared and I'd be like, who even cares? Like if they tell me to F off or they tell me this or they tell me that, it's just practice. They could say yes. And then you're like, holy shit, this is happening. I remember my first yes. It was from a Craigslist lead that I called. I was like, holy shit, they want to sell. What do I do?
But see, this is important, everybody. It's important that you have a big enough why. And once again, he's got that picture of a 42-year-old bartender where he doesn't want to be. And it's not one of those things where I'm going to do it part-time. I'm all in. I have to figure it out. Educate, implement, take action, understand your why, understand your vision, and then lock in. So what was the multifamily thing? Why were you drawn to multifamily?
So when I first got into wholesaling, I did it by myself for about 7 months. And then I had a deal come to me. I found a buyer for it. I had lunch with this buyer, and turns out we had all these mutual friends. And he said, hey, why don't you come work for us? We're doing this. We're really wholesaling. You're just kind of doing a little this here and there. And so sure as shit, I go join this group, and they were killing it, doing like 150 plus deals a year wholesale. And so I went and joined them, and I worked with them for about 3 years. And in that process, I started to learn about, small duplexes, triplexes. Every once in a while, we would do a letter campaign out to smaller multifamily, 4 units and under. And so I would get these leads, and every once in a while, I would get one, we'd wholesale it. So I started to learn a little bit about it. I ended up leaving that group. And right when I left that group, a gentleman I knew from the group early on, he said, hey, I'm getting into this multifamily stuff. I'm going to start wholesaling it and then maybe eventually start keeping it. You should come work with me. It's super hot right now. It's the buzzword, everything. And so I said, I just quit. I got nothing else going on. So him and I partnered up, and we just started really hammering letter campaigns and phones. And so we were getting deals a lot, and we were wholesaling a lot of stuff. And I remember we got a 10 unit deal, and I always knew like price per door. That's how I always based everything. I never really underwrote a deal. It was like, all right, what's price per unit? Let's put 10 grand on there and then we'll just sell it. Once we get this 10 unit, I'm like, the buyer started asking us all these questions. And I'm like, I don't know what that means. Cap rate. I don't know what any of that means. And I was like, a light bulb hit. I'm like, damn, we need to learn how to really, really, really do this multifamily stuff. If we're going to, this is what we're going to pursue. And so that's when I dug deep. I started Googling. I found, calculators or deal analyzers. And then I was going on to podcasts and just like, doing the same stuff I was doing when I got into wholesaling. And I found you guys on your podcast. And this is early, this is 2018, I think, when I joined you guys. And so I had found it, so that's how kind of it all came together. It was like, if I'm going to do this and I see it, like we're making really good money off these wholesale deals. If I'm going to start keeping it, then I got to really figure this stuff out. And so that's how it came up,
What were some of the challenges that you had with multifamily before you joined the group? And what were some of those challenges that were solved by joining the group?
I would say the number one biggest challenge was underwriting. I just didn't understand it. I didn't get it. I didn't know how to get into like the details. I just knew selling something, raising the price. And then I didn't really have, at the time, that partnership ended. So we never carried on. He ended up being not a great person. So I was like, now I was by myself, but I still had the multifamily buzz. And I'm like, all right, I need to really, really, really figure out who can I do this with? I can't do this alone, because as I'd listen to your guys' podcast and I'd be educating more, I'm like, I can't do this by myself. It's not at scale anyway. So that was the biggest challenge was like, who can I do this with? Like, who can I find that understands this? Maybe even better than me. I'm still new to it. Those were probably the biggest two challenges. And then as I started listening to more podcasts, I'm like, all right, I have to be a part of one of these communities. I have to.
And when you joined the community, what were some of the benefits that you got? I mean, I know the community, just like anyone else, it's just people who are like-minded. You're really focused in. Now you're accountable. Now it's all in. You've got skin in the game. Let's talk about that first deal. How did you find the first deal, and how did you guys take that first deal down?
Yeah. So first deal, Mike Moe, who's one of the community members, amazing dude. Gino, I don't even know if you remember this, but when I first joined, I believe I was maybe the first or second person in Arizona to join Jake and Gino. And in the beginning, when anybody filled out that document saying that they were interested in Arizona, you would connect me. You were hooking me up with emails twice a week. I was getting emails from, hey, Gino or Chris, meet this guy. He likes Phoenix. And so that's how most of the people I met came about in Arizona. But Mike Moe and I, we connected, we hit it off. We both wanted to work in Tucson. And I said, hey, I'm in the wholesale space. I understand how to target off-market deals. Let's build a campaign and let's just start shooting a shitload of mail out. And so that's what we were doing. Lo and behold, our second mailer, our first deal, a 24 unit, large deal anyway. There was a bunch of small stuff that came through, but it was a 24 unit. And the guy called me back and we started talking. He ended up being the perfect seller. He hated brokers, was tired of them calling him. It was all about doing an off-market deal. I mean, he couldn't have been more perfect, and willing to work with us on some stuff. So that's how that deal came up, man. It was a direct mail campaign.
Chris, I want you to speak to the person listening to this right now saying, that's great. Chris has been doing this for 9 years. I'm stuck in my job. I don't think I can do this. What should I do next? Really, what's the next steps that I need to take to get into real estate?
Yeah, I think first you got to study, do your due diligence, and figure out what kind of real estate you want to be in. There's a lot of different avenues, right? There's agent, wholesaler, flipper, developer. I mean, there's so many things you could do. I think you got to really just sit down and see, like, what you would be into. And then, today's day and age with the communities, find out what you like, and then just start focusing on those communities and start having conversations with those people. And then from there, you got to implement, and decide to go forward. When I decided to get into real estate, I did one wholesale deal. I made $18,000, and I quit bartending on that deal. And I said, I'm done. I'm going to learn. I'm going to go. I'm going to figure it out, because if I keep having bartending there, it's going to keep sucking me in. And so I quit. And so, some people don't have that opportunity, right? They have a great W-2, but you gotta just decide what you want to do. That's the biggest thing. And then find the right people to be around. Meetups are huge.
Chris, it's interesting that we can all make those excuses. I could have made that excuse also. Hey, I'm busy. I've got 6 kids. I've got a business. I can't get into it. Once again, lock into your why. Stop making the excuses. The only difference is it may take you a little bit longer than Chris to get into the business. You may not be able to blow up your life, but you can still figure it out. Where do you see yourself the next 3 to 5 years? I mean, you've done really well over the last 9 years. I'm really proud of you from that story of saying, getting stuck in that rut, having a great time, being the mixologist, having fun, all of a sudden saying, you know what, this is not going to be good for me long-term. Short-term pain, long-term gain. Where do you see yourself?
Yeah. Just growing, man. I'm 42 now, growing into a little bit more of an adult. So, I got to adult a little bit more these days. Just growing, man, getting more doors, right? Every year I have a personal goal of trying to get 100 doors a year. If I can do that, with the team as well, we basically are on the same page with that. And like I said, I'm still in the wholesale space, but we're starting to get into installing brand new manufactured homes. We feel like there's a huge need for it. It's a little more consistent. And I've been flipping them for years, so I just understand that world. So we're starting to do that, and I'm shifting a little bit out of wholesale because I don't know, I've been doing it for a long time, and I'm just kind of ready to move on. But yeah, just growing, man. Just trying to grow. I have a personal goal that I set when I joined with you guys. Actually, this is funny. When I joined with you guys, I had a personal goal to be financially free by 45. I'm 42 now. I still got a long ways to go, but
You got it, brother.
I'm working my tail off for it. But and when I say financially free, I'm not looking to be this like multi millionaire. Maybe I will be, but making about my number was 50,000 a month passively. Hopefully, I'll get there. But that's my goal, work wise, for sure.
Last question for the listeners: where can they get a hold of you, Chris?
Yeah, if anybody wants to chat about wholesaling, multifamily, maybe even if we're looking for land in Arizona, whatever it is. There's a lot of different people that listen to this. You can hit me up on my cell. I'm cool with that. My direct number is 716-566-8975. Or you can find me on Instagram. It's Chris_Bizub_investor. Probably
Chris, I love your story. And for anybody out there looking to grow, looking to get into multifamily, hit Chris up, because it's a beautiful story of just getting caught in life and doing the same thing over and over, and then having the epiphany and having the awakening, having that moment of lucidity to say that I like what I'm doing right now, but I know that there's more out there for me. I just don't know what it is. And then be open to have your mom give you a book, and you be open to reading the book and saying, this is what I think my life can be, but then diving deep, taking the education, then implementing that knowledge and taking it to the next step. And I love the fact that he went from wholesaling to fix and flip to multifamily, now to development. You see the beautiful transition.
Right.
And that's what I love about the story. And it is about growth, and it is about really leaning in, and it is about connection. Really, that's what real estate's all about. It's about networking and connection and getting out there. Chris, email address one more time.
Yeah, the email is chris@copperstateacquisitions.com.
Brother, I really appreciate you for being on the show. And for the listeners out there, it's one of those things where just start. If wholesaling is where you think you're comfortable, I'm not here to tell you to jump right into multifamily, although I wish you would, because I think that's a limiting belief to say I need to have millions of dollars. No, you need to have some type of creativity and some type of ability to network, but just start. Wholesaling is a great place. It's the beginning. It's not the end, as we see with Chris.
Yeah.
Brother, I appreciate you for being on the show. And everyone, just go out there and let's make it a Movers and Shakers Day.
Yeah, keep going.
Thanks, Chris.